2025 marks the 10th year anniversary of Fake Grand Order. In that time, we've seen the rise and fall of several metas. And whether you've been using the same servant since Castoria or discovering Fate for the first time, each year is a chance to discover something new. And this year is no exception.
水を汚す者に死の
どんなうめえもんを食わせてくれるのか
道を開くあるいは燃え尽き朽ち果てる
Since nearly every servant will be getting at least one raid up leading up to FGOGP's 10th anniversary, every servant released from the past 10 years will be considered for this list under the category of support or DPS, with the top 10 DPS split between the top 5 single target and top 5 AoE DPSs. And for those looking for in-depth guides on each mentioned servant as well as their future raid updates, I'll be linking their dates as well as Pheno Tyson's and Plushie's serving guides in the description below. Let's get started. In FGO, having the right support can often make up for having the wrong DPS, while having the right DPS with the wrong master can land you in marriage counseling. With how specialized the best supports are, they won't be listed in any specific order, unless her name is Castoria. While she is the mandatory for clearing content, no other support truly does what Castoria does, adding the most reliable form of survivability and NP uptime to any team. Of course, no support can make up for not reading the game mechanics, but Castoria can get you pretty damn close. In FGO, there are two main forms of gameplay: farming free quests over the course of 3 turns, and farming bosses over the course of 3 months, give or take a couple days. For resource farming, Koyanskaya and Oberon have remained the easiest supports to use, while also enabling the highest possible damage values in the game. Skadi Ruler, on the other hand, is proving to be at the forefront of the next farming meta, enabling servants like Khazra and Lilith to reliably farm most 90+ nodes at NP1, without any starting charge alongside Skadi Caster, making her one of the most desirable supports for the unemployed. When it comes to longer boss fights, Tamamo, Merlin, Lady Avalon, and the latest addition, Tiamat Summer, are among the best in the field. Tamamo currently possesses the only NP in the game with a party-wide cooldown, while also sporting NP charge and heals. Merlin brings the highest combination of buster and crit buffs with decent sustained value. Lady Avalon is basically Blue Merlin, and Tiamat Summer comes with an answer to nearly every annoying CQ gimmick in the game. And then there's Summer Chloe and Miss Crane, who give crit buffs, immunity to death, guts, and many other buffs, and are currently the only supports capable of cycling in all the other supports within 3 turns without having to make themselves play Sudoku off a bridge.
Oh my god!
While most of the characters mentioned will be getting a raid up within the next year from this video's release, Koyanskaya is unfortunately going through a year-long divorce settlement and won't be seen till January of next year, so Fox Lemon enthusiasts will have to wait a little longer.
And the reason she's in a bag is because I can do things to it, so but you know, without making it dirty. Anyways.
Thank you for calling People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals and the PETA Foundation. Our office.
飛ぶわよマータゲートオープン光栄に思いなさい。これが私の全力全霊打ち砕けアンガルナキガルシュ。
Starting off the top AoE DPS of the decade is Ishtar Archer. After her recent S3 buff, Ishtar became one of the best DPS for clearing most level 90+ free quests at medium investment, most level 90++ free quests at high investment, and returning some CQs like any other farming node. However, Ishtar's S3 buff that makes her so capable likely won't be available until July of 2027, and when it comes to Ishtar's 6 CE farm capability that lets her use any CE, including Black Grail, her reliance on carding after her MP to do so is a bit sketchy, even with her S3 buff guaranteeing her cards to appear. And when it comes to longer fights, while she has a 1-turn invincibility and 42% passive debuff resistance, the 6-turn cooldown leaves Ishtar overly reliant on supports to stay alive while offering little to the supports themselves besides a party-wide attack buff. With that said, Ishtar still shines in any scenario that needs a lot of damage in a short amount of time, which is the majority of the content in FGO. But if you don't care for meta and just want to know about her, you'll find Ishtar in the FGO Babylonia anime and FGO Babylonia chapter, where you can see this Sumerian goddess truly shine at her brightest.
無双の国、無冠の騎士、白亜の城が語りしは、叶うことなき夢。
Ash the Savior, aka Tonerico, supports the team through giving NP charge, giving some more NP charge, and reducing her own skill cooldown to give even more NP charge. While Ash excels in helping other DPS and supports perform to a higher degree, she can also farm several level 90 plus requests at only NP 1, thanks to her S3, allowing her usual supports Koyanskaya and Oberon to also use her NPs by wave 2 or 3. As for challenge quests, Ash is among the best options for surviving longer fights thanks to her skill, Last Resort.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
Ah, dang it. When alongside servants such as Tamamo, Tezcatlipoca, Tiamat Summer, or Olga Marie, Ash provides an extra line of survivability not shared by most. However, Ash's value for CQ scenarios is heavily dependent on which supports or DPS you bring with her, as she is one of the best enablers you can find in FGO. And if you want to know more about her character, you can find her in the Lost Belt 6 chapter, which can also be found at the YouTube link I'll have below. Just don't worry about the fact she looks like Castoria in the story, or the fact she technically is Castoria, Morgan, and Tenelico all at the same time. This is fate you're getting into, where people are born at a young age, are incorrect when they're right, and die when they're killed. Most of the time.
I thought you were dead.
My death was greatly exaggerated.
風が出てきたな。山の心臓、煙る鏡。天と地を所有する者。第一の太陽、ここに死すり。
Tezcatlipoca is one of the safest AoE DPSs you can find for longer boss fights. His party-wide invincibility, NP charge, and invincibility piercing capabilities make him unstoppable with supports like Castoria and Tamamo against any challenge that doesn't stun or outright strip the entire team of their buffs. On the other hand, Tezcatlipoca's damage, even at level 100 NP2 in an ideal comp, falls short of clearing many wave 2 enemies and level 90 plus free quests. However, he is a decent secondary DPS in multi-DPS farming teams, and is survivable even when used without his ideal supports. While Tezcatlipoca has a lower damage ceiling, he is arguably the best pick for keeping himself and his team alive. And for the nerds interested in his exact farming damage numbers, scroll down to see the arts farming tier list linked below.
空間作成開始。始まりの1とおしまいの0。時間は巡る川のように宇宙の全てで包んであげる。誓いなさい、エビーシグラコラプター。
Space Ereshkigal's debut set new records in FGO for the longest card text. Simply put, Space Ereshkigal is arguably the easiest servant to bring to any CQ in the game. She cleanses and resists debuffs, blocks buff removals, pierces defense and invincibility, and has her own invincibility, death resistance, and guts buffs with good uptimes, and has the potential to ramp up to 300% crit damage in a single turn. There's hardly any buffs left in the game to even add to Space Ereshkigal's kit. She can do well in any challenge quest, especially longer ones, and has minor class advantage against most extra classes. But there is a reason she's number 2. Despite her loaded kit, her farming damage doesn't even come close to the top 10 AoE arts DPS, and besides her first skill, Space Ereshkigal doesn't quite do as much to keep the rest of her team alive as she does for herself, running the risk of her supports dying out before she can finish the fight. Nevertheless, asking more from someone who has nearly every skill in the game is like Asian parents' level of nitpicking, and I'm not feeling up to continuing the cycle. So, if you want to see more Ereshkigal, you can find her in the Babylonia and Lost Belt 7 story chapters, as well as the FGO Babylonia, Fate Grand Carnival, and technically her human counterpart in the Fate Stay Night animes.
I call this routine bad cop, worse cop. I'm both.
I don't get what you...
Sorry, that was bad cop.
Not worse cop?
Worst cop wouldn't miss.
I love the kind of woman that will actually just kill me.
Stars, Cosmos, Gods, Animus, Antrum, Ambers, Anima, Animus Sphere. やっとこの時が来たのね。これで私がこの宇宙のオンリーワン。
Olga Marie crushes the previous highest hypothetical damage dealing record and is probably the best hybrid DPS support in the game, where most hybrid DPS support are usually outclassed by dedicated DPS or support. Olga Marie can choose to be both. Having two versions for every one of her skills depending on her ascension, she can 3-turn many low 90++ requests and short CQs alike, or be the best support for virtually any content when used with servants like Ashe and Tamamo that allow them to survive anything from Pierce Invuln gimmicks with Ashe's Guts to bypassing stunlock mechanics with Olga's debuff immunity to cycling their NPs and skill cooldowns so often that even buff removal gimmicks stop being as much of an issue. Though, without NP charging supports, Olga's CQ stalling capability will start to vary due to her most important skill needing at least 100% NP charge to use. Additionally, to enable Olga Marie's highest farming damage for level 90++ requests in a comp that allows any CE to be used for event drop bonuses, she may require different skill timings to let enemies live after her NP to be carded for NP refund, which is a pretty grand order. Or she can forgo her third skill for more consistent farming and 33% less damage. Or she can use the starting charge CE like Golden Sumo and still deal enough damage to clear many level 90++ requests at only NP 2, though her low wave 2 damage may require a secondary DPS over a third support. Olga Marie is probably the hardest character to understand off of any guide that's less than 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 47 seconds long, but she will also be the most rewarding for it. You can find Olga Marie in the FGO First Order anime, as well as the very first chapter of FGO, Singularity Fuyuki, and her god form in the Lost Salt 7 chapter. While getting emotional over dinosaurs fighting a UFO with guns was the last thing I expected, I can say that the experience that left me was worth the journey, and my 1600 Saint Quartz.
If he says it again, you guys are gonna break his neck! My fortune comes from the heaven. My armor shines on my chest, and my feet will bring me victory. 利点発送知らないいけないわ
Uesugi Kenshin's greatest strengths include good survivability, great sustainability, flexible compatibility, and promising fertility. Thanks to her somewhat spammable MP, Uesugi is probably the best single-target arts DPS for any challenge quest that spams removable buffs. While many challenge quests have unremovable buffs, most enemies will still have a standard set of skills that trigger normal removable buffs. Plus, she has decent NP and crit damage values, even when used in a more defensive team, and further benefit supports like Tamamo, Castoria, and Ashe, thanks to her third skill. She is fairly survivable as a ruler, especially in solo content like Girlfriend events, makes for a serviceable single-target farming DPS, and has already done much to help bridge the language barrier between English speakers and the native players of the game abroad.
My fortune comes from the heaven. My armor shines on my chest, and my feet will bring me victory. Matsuri no owari. Chokushi.
If I had a nickel for every Type Moon love interest that wanted to kill the main character of their respective route, I'd have MP5 them by now. Ryogi Shiki Summer currently deals the 3rd highest farming damage as an arts farmer, performs well against AoE-focused challenge quests, and can cycle her skills even faster in single-target scenarios. Shiki Summer is a true master of all trades and grandmaster of none, which can be a good thing. As endgame fights evolved over time, they started to incorporate more gimmicks than a single servant can reasonably account for. But for Shiki Summer, she can at least choose to deal AoE or single target damage, while having 2 options for dealing with 2 of the most challenging gimmicks in the game, which make her excellent for farming or challenge quests that require defeating multiple lesser enemies before being allowed to fight a single high HP enemy. Shiki's downsides, however, are her rather selfish kit, save for her 10% party-wide MP charge effect, and the fact she is heavily reliant on supports to keep her alive when using her single-target form. But with good skill cooldown supports, Shiki Summer can double dip into the benefits of both her skill versions if you plan around them. Overall, Shiki is excellent for farming irregular enemy waves, and is a great pick for taking on niche bosses with Lilith, the Count of Monte Cristo, and Taira no Kagekyo are 3 brands of the same flavor. Lilith is great for dealing high spoonfuls of damage right off the bat, even without the charm damage bonus to her NP, as she deals over double the NP damage compared to the Count of Monte Cristo and Taira no Kagekyo. Though, even with her 2-hit evasion, she is still twice as fragile compared to them due to her Berserker class. The Count of Monte Cristo is not meant to wow you on the first bite, but his high survivability with his ability to stun lock with his NP, along with a gradually stackable NP damage mod that synergizes with his second skill, will keep you content on enjoying his flavor over a longer period of time. And as for Taira, she's a solid meal that includes a 4-turn cooldown guts, along with a 2-hit evasion and buff removal on her NP, making her self-sufficient DPS to bring in case the rest of your team dies off. Essentially, these are among the best single-target units for solo content like Girlfriend events, or as a last line of defense in case everyone else dies when they're killed, and you need someone else to clutch out their own. CL Summer stands above nearly every DPS in the game, thanks to her having an answer to nearly every gimmick in the game. When I took her into the 5 latest single-target advanced quests on JP, she took 7 turns or less to clear every single one. And when it comes to farming, even as a single-target DPS, thanks to her guaranteed crit damage, she can farm level 90+ nodes, dealing well over 1 million total damage at just NP2. Now, she's not 3-turning any quests with more than 3 enemies per wave, and as a secondary DPS, her damage without crits drops below other single-target peers, and she has 0 team-wide supportive utility. But CL still performs well at lower investment and has great uptime on her own sustaining skills to last in prolonged fights. To find out more about CL, you can find her in the Tsukihime visual novel, which for English readers is currently only available on the PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. But given other Type Moon works have gotten an official Steam release, there is a good chance of the Tsukihime remake following suit. So we'll hopefully have something to look forward to until then.
つでしょ。
Summer Castoria is currently one of only 2 characters to have unpierceable invincibility. She can easily farm niche 111 enemy pattern free quests, and she can brute force any single target advanced quest with the ideal supports. While Summer Castoria needs a bit more thinking than Ciel to clear challenge quests at equal investment, especially with the caster Castoria, she's still capable of clearing them guerrilla style with a wider range of supports, thanks to her party weight utility that Ciel lacked, making her viable in AoE challenge quests and farming runs as a secondary hybrid DPS support. If you want the best teams to brute force every content in the game for 6 CE farming, I recommend Olga Marie in this team comp if you're willing to do some thinking for the highest damage in the game, or just use Melazine or Arquid if you want to do minimal thinking, or Kuku Khan if you want to do minimal thinking and are okay with needing a CE with starting MP charge to get higher damage. For single target challenge quests, I recommend the Summer Castoria or CL comps, depending on what gimmicks you have to prep for. And for AoE challenge quests, the Space of Rush or Olga Marie compositions will likely carry you for years to come. While meta strategies and gacha mechanics are part of the game, it's ultimately Fate's story that drives me and many others to create, consume, and anticipate each and every release. And while the story hasn't always been perfect, and I've admittedly taken my share of breaks here and there, it's something I always find myself coming back to. We knew it was hell we were walking into. And yet, it was beautiful. Happy 10-year anniversary to Fate Grand Order.
ありがとうございます。先輩。
If to feel pain is my fate, then I have just one thing to say. Here in my scar-covered heart, color will always exist. Kiss me farewell, Judas, turning to dust to dust. This weakness of my distant past. Another scar, one more scratch to my heart that's made out of glass. It lights a spark, burning hot. What I have nearly forgot. I watch the last stardust rise up and fly. Dust to dust, ash to ash into the sky. These fragments of my hopes and dreams never die.
10年か。あっという間だったな。でもいいんだ。藤丸くんがいるからね。彼が立派なマスターになってくれれば、僕のいた意味がある。それは、僕が人間として得られる最大の存在意義だ。これまで過ごした自由に報いるにあまりある。じゃあまた。僕がいなくなったら、あとは頼むよ。